Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about all of the books that I read in January and February. I did not get to read a lot in February because I just didn't have time. It's a shorter month and I was just so busy. Obviously, it's just an amazing feeling to be able to read a book or two, and I just have so many books that I'm very excited about. So all of these books that I have to share today are majority pretty good. I had to angle the camera down, but I read 6 books, 6 books in January. I'm filming this the last week of February, so I think I'm going to be able to read 4 books in February. Overall, I'm still really happy because so far this year, I think I've had like 2 5-star reads, and it's only February, so that means a lot, and I'm very excited for what there is to come. I feel like I'm going to have a lot of 5-star reads this year, so I really hope I'm not disappointed. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and talk about all of these books. First book that I finished in January was a Christmas read because I was reading this at the end of December, and I actually have a reading vlog where I read like different Christmas books. So this one I ended up giving 3.5 stars, and that is pretty good because usually Christmas books I feel like they're just a fun read but not too much. This one is like a small town about a single dad, and he is like the town manager, I guess, and the main female character has a TV show where she is trying to renovate this town because it had like a hurricane come through, and so the single dad is like, I don't really need your help because, you know, he doesn't really trust her and he feels like she's just doing this for her TV show. But obviously he comes around to her help, and like she is different from what he expected, and I think it was just a cute read. It's one of them is famous, and usually I do like that trope, but it's nothing too crazy. It's not the worst Christmas book, but I definitely did enjoy this one, so I would recommend. This was like my first Lucy scored read, so I was really happy. I think I will like her book because I didn't find her writing to be like cringy or anything like that. Then the second book that I read was A Princess to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer, and this is the second book following Assistant to the Villain. That one is basically, it's just a fun fantasy book to read. You don't have to read to like focus on and like remember everything, so it's just something that when I'm feeling fantasy but not really a high stake fantasy, then I would gravitate towards this book. It's fun because of the writing. The villain in here, you're not supposed to like really like him, but obviously he's charming and he's just silly, and Evie is like a sunshine whereas he's like a grump, and then Kingsley the little frog is a fun character in this book as well. So I don't really want to share too much about this book, obviously, because it is the second book. I gave this one 4 stars. More things happened in this book compared to the first one, because the first one I was kind of like, okay, where is it going? But it was still a fun read. This one you get more development about the story. I'm very curious to know where the third one will go because I feel like every time I finish reading I'm like, where is this series gonna go? But I do enjoy this book and it was a fun time. So if you guys want something like a fantasy that is not too hard to comprehend and just has some humor to it, then this definitely would be the book. Oh, I forgot to mention that a lot of these books you will see in future reading vlogs just because I'm so behind on editing my reading vlogs, so bear with me, but I'm trying to keep my thoughts brief because I will share more in those videos. The next book I read was The Rule Book by Sarah Adams, and this is the second book following The Cheat Sheet. Honestly, The Cheat Sheet was like a 5-star read for me. It's a football romance, but unfortunately this book did not hit for me, you guys. I ended up giving this book, I think, 2.5 stars. I just think that it was a little bit cringy, and the romance I wasn't really feeling, so I don't really remember, because this one is about college exes break all the rules when they reunite later in this enemies to lovers second chance romance. I can't really remember the story, to be honest, because that's how much I like put it off. But now looking back, I kind of know why I didn't like it. It's because usually second chances just don't hit for me. So that's unfortunate, because usually I love Sarah Adams books. So that one just didn't do it for me. And who knows, you know, let me know what you guys think about this book if you have read it. And then I actually don't have the physical copy with me here, but I read the first book in the Zodiac Academy. I didn't think I would ever start this series, but I guess here we are, and it was actually a surprise because I loved it so much. Even though I have heard and seen mixed reviews about this book, but I did enjoy it and I gave it 4.5. It was like pretty good, you guys. I almost gave it 5 stars, but it was just like, it's a bully romance, so I wasn't really used to it, but then I like really did enjoy the story and like everything about it. So it definitely like lit a spark in me, because I started the year like not so great, and then I read this book and it really, I was like flying through that book, and now I really need to continue the series before I like forget everything. It's a bully romance, and it's about like these different zodiac signs and stuff, so that's kind of fun to read. And these two sisters, they're like Geminis. Obviously they're at this school where the Zodiac Academy, and they're to inherit the throne. I'm trying to remember this, but there are different like heirs, and they're all like different species, I guess. There's like a vampire, werewolf, and just different things. So it was very interesting, because I just didn't like that they would suck on your blood whenever. That was just a little weird concept. But if you guys haven't read it, then maybe try it out, but definitely check like trigger warnings, I guess, because I don't think everyone will like it. But I honestly ate up the first book, and I just can't wait to continue, because Larissa was talking about it and her mom read the books, so it got me really intrigued. And so I'm very happy that I started, and I did not think I would ever start the series, but I guess never say never. And now I need to read like 9 books or so. Right after that book, I picked up Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, because I wanted to read like a romance book, and I've just heard like nothing but amazing things about this book. I finally picked it up, and you guys, I was missing out. This is my favorite, okay, maybe second to The 7-Year Slip, but it's like up there, like probably neck and neck with The 7-Year Slip, because this book was just so good. It is the perfect romance book that you can read, and I don't think you even need to read like the other books in the series, but if you read the other books first, then get to this one, because I think this is the 3rd book in the Part of Your World series. Everything was so perfect. The way this book started to the ending, it was just so fun, and I just think that everybody needs to read this book. This is like my first 5-star read for 2025, and I couldn't be happier. Yeah, so definitely worth the hype. It was just perfect. So this one is basically about Emma, and she is cursed, she believes, because every guy that she dates, after they break up, they go and find their soulmates. So she comes across Justin, and he's, you know, going through the same thing, and so they were like, hey, why not fake date each other, because when we break up, then we might find our soulmates. The whole process was just amazing and so fun. I ate this book up. It was just so good. I think this is like the new book that I will recommend to readers who, you know, want to read romance books or something, because it was just so good. The last book that I read in January was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I'm just so glad I picked this book up as well, because I've heard some amazing things about this book, and I'm just happy that it didn't turn out like Happy Place for me, because Happy Place just didn't hit. So I feel like maybe I need to reread that book, but this one I ended up giving 4 stars. It's not a 5-star read for me, but I'm still really happy with it, because Emily Henry's writing is just so, I don't know how to describe it. It's like deep and meaningful, but it's just so lovely to read. And so this one was very fun because it's about Daphne. She was dating someone and he broke up with her. He went to date his childhood friend, and so she moved in with this guy, and he turns out to be that childhood's friend. Petra is her name. her ex. So now the two are like roommates, and there's forced proximity. I think there's also fake dating, to be honest. I kind of forgot, but it was just a fun concept, them figuring it out together and growing, you know, obviously attracted to each other, and just their connection. It was just really cute, and I had a great time reading this book. So 4 stars, and I love this edition as well. Now moving on to the books that I've read in February. The first book, I also don't have the physical book, but I do need to go get it ASAP because I read Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young, and you guys, I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book as well. And there's that pregnancy trope that everyone, you know, despises, and honestly I've never really been against the pregnancy trope or surprise pregnancy trope, but everybody loves this book, and I just on a whim, you know, had it on my Libby, so I gave it a read. Right off the bat, it hooked me. Don't know if it's because I just became a like first time mom, but it just like was so good. And I feel like you don't even have to be a mom to read this, but I think everything that she touched in that book was just so perfect. It was like the way she wrote everything, and like the characters were funny. It was just a great time, honestly, and it was like meaningful. I loved the amount of depth that it had, and just everything about the book was literally perfect. So another 5-star read. I can't believe I've been putting that book off. I did want to read that eventually, and I'm just so glad that it was like a book that you didn't expect to read, and then when you do read it, it hits. So that was that book, and it was just literally perfect. And honestly, for me, audiobooks just kind of like alter my rating a little bit, because I feel like usually, you know, I don't give the book as high of a rating compared to when I actually read the physical book, because I retain the information better and I can see the words flowing. But sometimes when you're just listening, it goes in one ear and comes out the other. But this book, I gave it a 5 stars. So that means that I probably would have like been obsessed if I read the physical. But yeah, I loved it so much, and I definitely would recommend. Obviously, I forgot their names. I'm so bad, you guys, with names and just remembering the plots and everything. But the main female character is at a Halloween party, and she ends up having a one-night stand, and obviously, you know, things happen. So now she's trying to navigate what is going to happen with their relationship and her, and just everything else. It was just so good the way that she touched on these topics that can be sensitive. So definitely check trigger warnings, but honestly, it was just perfectly written, and I loved it. So that's all I really have to say about it, because yeah, I want to keep it brief. I was 3 weeks late, but I finally read this book, and I'm going to have a reading vlog dedicated to this book, so I don't really want to say too much. But obviously, I feel like everyone knows this is the 3rd book following Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and it's by Rebecca Yarros, and I just love these editions. So this one, I've heard some mixed reviews as well, but a lot of people love it. Unfortunately for me, I didn't give this 5 stars, so I didn't hate it either, but I'm going to share my rating like later on in that vlog if you guys are curious. Another, I feel like, plot or politics heavy book, and a lot of new characters as well. So it was just a lot going on, a lot of room for theories to be made, and obviously I feel the same way everybody does with the ending of this book. Like, what? Speechless. So I'm still going to read the 4th book. That's all I have to say. And then I read A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. This was a 5-star prediction for me, and it wasn't a 5-star read, but I did enjoy this book. It didn't hit like the 7-year slip, so I don't know if it's because I already like had high hopes for this book that it kind of like, you know, made me a little bit disappointed. But this one I ended up giving, I think, 3.5 stars. This one is by Eileen. She loves reading, and every year she goes on this trip, but this year she happens to go alone, and she goes to this small town where she bumps into this mysterious guy, and this town happens to be from her favorite book. And so the author passed away, and like these characters are all the same, and so she's trying to figure out like why she's here. And it's just interesting. But I did like the magical realism aspect, but I was a little bit confused, to be honest. It was like about love and just relationships, and it was really nice because she also has like the writing style kind of like Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez, and so I did enjoy this one, but I wasn't obsessed with it. So I am very excited to read The Dead Romantics and then see how I feel about that one, because that's the only book by her that I haven't gotten to. And I also forgot to mention that I read Happily Never After by Lynn Painter, and this one was actually a DNF, so I read like 50% of the way and then I just couldn't do anymore. I thought that it was very repetitive and cringy. I hate using that word, but it was repetitive. The characters were immature, and I just didn't really vibe with this book. So I didn't want to waste my time, even though this was another anticipated read for me. I thought I would like this book because it sounds really fun. Basically, the main male character is, his job is to, or his hobby is to go and break up weddings, and so he did that for the main female character, and now he's like trying to hire her to do like be a part of it and work with him. But yeah, I just didn't really like it. The concept sounded really good, but I just didn't really enjoy this book. The camera did die, but I have one last book to share before it dies again. And I am still reading this book, but I think I'm probably going to finish it by the end of February because I am flying through this book, and that is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I just have finally started this book, you guys, and I'm so proud of myself because it has been on my list for so long, and so I'm finally able to check this off and like read something different, because this is supposed to be a dark romance and I have never read a dark romance. This one, so far I'm like halfway through, so I think I'm going to like sit and binge this book today. But I enjoy the characters so much. I think they're so fun. Callum, I don't know, like I didn't really know how to feel about him in the beginning because he's kind of like a bully, but then that's kind of like their dynamic, and sometimes he's just making me feel like I think he's growing on me. So I guess we'll have to see like how I feel at the end of this book, and like obviously you guys will know if you guys watch my reading vlogs in the future. But I just know that it's about the Griffins and the Gallows. They're like rivals, but they're like these gangs, and so now something has happened that the two main characters are set up to marry each other, and it is steamy, you guys. It is pretty steamy. I haven't gotten to, well, I guess there are some dark aspects, but not really any dark aspects to me, so I feel like it's very light, and I'm curious to know what else there will be. Like maybe it'll get crazy the other half, but so far it's like mainly about them, and I really do like how the story started and where it's going, and just the progression of it is like a nice flow. It's very straight to the point, and I just like this writing because it's like a pretty short read, so I like that. So far 4-star rating, but I guess we'll see how the rest of the book will go, and I'll keep you guys updated. But for sure I'm probably going to finish this book, so might as well include it in this video. But that's all that I have to share for my February or January and February wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this little review and got to see my thoughts on all of these books. I read some like anticipated reads for me from last year that I couldn't get to, so I'm really happy. I'm hoping to be able to check off all of my 2024 anticipated reads in 2025 and then read my 2025 anticipated reads. But I appreciate all of you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on any of these books, and hopefully I can read more in March. I am very excited, so I will see you all in my next one. Bye.